For today's lesson, we only need the math workbook. And what are we going to do today? Today, we are going to learn how to solve word problems involving interpreting fraction as a set. So, can you please turn to page 131 of your math workbook and let's look at question 1 together. Hui Ling bought 18 chicken nuggets. She ate 6 of them. So what fraction of the chicken nuggets did she eat? I told you before that when you try your word problems, please make it a habit to actually break them down into shorter sentences like this. So, for the first sentence, I know that Hui Ling bought 18 chicken nuggets. So, what does 18 chicken nuggets actually mean? It refers to the total nuggets that she has. And she ate 6 of them. So, how many did she actually eat? That's right, she ate 6. And what does the word of them means? Of them actually refers to the total number of chicken nuggets, which is 18. So, what fraction of the chicken nuggets did she eat? If we recall what we learned the previous lesson, when you see the question, what fraction of the chicken nuggets did she eat, you can actually already determine what your denominator is, simply based on the question. So, you look out for the word of, and I know that whatever comes after the word of is going to be my base. Okay, which in this case refers to the chicken nuggets, and the total chicken nuggets here that we have is actually 18. So I know that my denominator is going to be 18. What about my numerator? Numerator, I'm interested in the number of nuggets that she eat, and I know it's going to be 6. So my numerator is going to be 6. So, is this already in the simplest form? How can you further simplify 6 out of 18? That's right, you can divide both the numerator and denominator by 6. Which will give you 1 out of 3. So, 1/3 of the chicken nuggets were eaten. Now, let's move on to question 4 on page 132. So, same thing. When you first read your question, you can actually first break it down into smaller sentences. Like this. So, after breaking them down into smaller sentences, then you can go and read it sentence by sentence. So, Amiya had 36 stickers. What does 36 means? It means the total stickers that Amiya has. So, she gave 2/3 of her stickers to Lily. So, I know that from who does this she actually refers to? Very good. This she refers to Amiya. So, if Amiya gave 2/3 of her stickers, I know that 2/3 of her stickers actually meant 2/3 of 36, because Amiya has 36 stickers. So, From this sentence, I can already gather the fact that she's going to give 2/3 of 36. So how do I present this in the form of a model? First thing first, you will have drawn a bar and label it as 36. So for this bar, am I going to cut into 2 parts or 3 parts? So recall back to what I taught you previously, we always look at the denominator of our fraction. So since the denominator is 3, we will cut our bar into 3 parts. 1, 2, 3. So 2 parts out of 3 parts, which means I am interested in finding 2 parts. So based on the model, it's very clear that 3 units gives you 36. And if 3 units represents 36, 1 unit is simply just 36 divided by 3, which will give you 12 units. And since I want to find 1 unit, 2 units, I just move on to find 2 units, which is actually 12 times 2, which would give you 20, which should have give you 24. So please remember to write down your word statement. Okay. Now let's move on to the next question. Please turn to page 133 and let's look at question 2 together. So 3 out of 8 of 32 pupils in class B are girls. So how many boys are there? So I know that 3 out of 8 of 32 pupils are girls. Okay, if 3 out of 8 of them are girls, what fraction of them are boys? Okay, I know that 5 out of 8 of 32 are boys. Which means I will draw a bar for my model which represents 32. And how many units am I going to cut this into? Am I going to cut it into 8 units or 5 units? Okay, remember, we always cut it based on our denominator, which is 8. So we will cut this model into 8 units. Okay, and how many units out of these 8 units represents your boys? Yes, 5 units, because 5 out of 8 of 32. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So from the model, we can see that 8 units represents 32. So I can move on to find 1 unit, which is 32, divided by 8, which will give you 4. So since 1 unit is 4, to find 5 units, I just need to take 4 times 5, which will give you 20. So there will be 20 boys. So they are 20 boys. Please remember to write your number statement and your word statements. Then you can move on to color 20 boys from here. Now, let's move on to the next question. Page 134, question 4. So Ravi was given $28 as allowance. He spent 4 out of 7 of the allowance. How much money did Ravi have left? So same thing, I will first break down my word problem into shorter sentences. Okay, so what does $28 represent? Good, it represents the allowance that he has. Okay, so he spent 4 out of 7 of the allowance. So I already know that $28 represents the allowance. So I know that the allowance here actually means $28. Which means from this sentence, I know that it actually meant 4 out of 7 of 28. So, how much money did Ravi have left? So, same thing, I'm just going to draw a long bar to first represent 28. So, how many parts am I going to cut my model into? 7 parts, because my denominator here is 7. So I'll cut it into 7 parts now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I know that 4 out of 7 was spent. So 4 out of 7 means out of my 7 parts here, 4 parts would have been spent. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 parts here is spent. So on your model, you can label 4 parts here as spent. If 4 parts is spent, how many parts are left over? Okay, very good. Which means the remaining part here would be the leftover. So how do I find the leftover parts? Okay, I know that total is 28, which means 7 unit here gives me 28. So I know that 7 unit is equals to 28. Since 7 unit is 28, I can move on to find 1 unit. So I can find 1 unit first, which is 28 divided by 7, which will give you 4. And since I want to know how much did Ravi left, which means I want to find a total of 3 units. So I move on to find 3 units. Which is 4 times 3, which should give you $12. And please write your word statement together with your units. Okay. Okay, let's now move on to the last question. Can you please turn to page 135 and let's look at question 6 together. James spent 3 out of 5 of his money and had $60 left. How much money did he have at first? So similarly, we can first break it down into smaller parts first. So the first part will be this. Second part. And the third part. Okay, I did mention to you before, and is also another keyword that you need to take note of, and where you can split your sentence as long as it tells you about two different ideas. So for this case, the first idea would be James spending 3 out of 5 of his money, and the second idea would be the fact that he would have $60 left. So if you split your sentence at end, it tells you the two different things that is happening, which means that this end is a hint for you to split your sentence like this. So he spent 3/5 of his money. How can you present this as a model? So you will have first drawn a long bar that looks like this. So in your model, how many parts are you going to cut it into? Are you going to cut it into 3 parts or 5 parts? Yes, you always look at your denominator. So since your denominator here is 5, you will cut this into 5 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? And you know that he's going to spend 3 out of 5 units, which means in your total of 5 units here, he's only going to spend 3, which is 1, 2, 3. So this part is what he will spend. Okay, if this is what he spent, where would be the part to indicate what he has left? Yes, the remaining 2 units here represents how much left. And in this case, I know that the left here represents $60. So from your model, it clearly shows you that 2 units represent $60. So I know that 2 units represent $60. So I can move on to find 1 unit. I just need to take 60 divided by 2, which will give me $30 for 1 unit. And since I want to find how much money he has at first, meaning in the beginning. In the beginning, I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. So at first, actually represents 5 units. So I know 1 unit is $30. I can move on to find what is 5 units, which is 30 times 5, which will give you $150. Okay, so please move on to write your word statement and please include your units. So hopefully from today's word problem, it shows you how beneficial and clear it is to draw a model to represent what you see in the question. Because with the model, it indicates clearly to you how many units are there in all and what does every unit represents. So remember, look at the fraction and zoom into the denominator to help you to decide how many parts you need to cut your whole model into. After that, you can move on to use your unitary method, which means letting the number of units to represent, let's say $60 for this question, and you can move on to find one unit and later to find the subsequent numbers of units that you need for the rest of the question. So for all the questions I went through thus far, I will require you to draw your model, indicate your model, and solve it using the unitary method like what we did here. So if you didn't manage to copy as I was going through just now, you can now go back to the videos in front and copy down the models accordingly, because the model is essential as it will help you to solve the subsequent questions at the back. Okay, so I've come to the end of today's YouTube lesson. I need you to go back to my individual timetable for today to look up for the things that I need you to do for your homework, as well as the timing that I will be posting the answers on Showbie, and also the question that I require you to take a photo and post it in Showbie. So for the question that I want to see your working, I expect to see your model and your number statement as well as your word statement. So all these three things I am expecting to see in your answer key, in the answer you post for me in Showbie. Okay, your model, your number statement, as well as your word statement. If I require you to post the question on Showbie, I will not be posting the answer key for the particular question, because I want to see how much you understand for the question. So once you post your answers on Showbie, I will be able to mark and give you feedback accordingly. Okay, so please go back to my individual timetable to take a look at what is the homework you need to do for the next half of the lesson. Thank you.